here we are in the middle of this stream talking about game 7, rather, of the Stanley Cup Final between the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers. But moments before this game began, this historic game began, we got a huge trade in the NHL, a huge trade within the Eastern Conference, and a huge trade within the Atlantic Division. The trade is as follows. The Ottawa Senators acquire Linus Ullmark from the Boston Bruins in exchange for Joonas Korpisalo, 25% retained. Korpisalo, I believe, just played his first season with the Ottawa Senators, and they're already trading him and retaining on him. Mark Kastelic, big bruising depth forward for them, and a first-round pick that is the 25th overall pick. Is that the 25th overall pick this year? Producer Drew? I believe it is. Yes, it is. So here's the thing. It's next year? Oh, they would. Yeah, you're right. They wouldn't know it was 25th if it was next year. So here's the thing. That's not awesome. It could be worse. Could be better. I'm not sure I understand it for either team, if I'm going to be totally honest. I do understand it for the Ottawa Senators. Listen, they're getting Linus Ullmark, who won the Vezina just 2 years ago on a Boston Bruins team that won 65 games. Here's the thing with Linus Ullmark. You can't say with him, oh, well, that was all well and good with the Boston Bruins. Sure, he can win all those games with the Boston Bruins. How's he going to be able to do it with the Ottawa Senators? Well, the whole reason Linus Ullmark is a Bruin in the first place is because he was doing incredibly on the Buffalo Sabres, and the Sabres were in a state of perennial rebuild. And so they sent Ullmark, who was performing extremely well, all the way over to the Boston Bruins. He had a lot of success there. The problem, or rather, it was pretty good for them at the time. The problem was that the Boston Bruins had this kid from Alaska named Jeremy Swayman, who was the next big thing. He was incredible for them as a backup. This past year, he was incredible for them as a tandem guy who then took over as the undisputed starter. He's still one of the best goaltenders to have played in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Now, what the Boston Bruins get is the 25th overall pick, which is sort of a first rounder. It's a first rounder in that the pick lands in the first round, but it is not deep it is not in a good spot in the first round. If you were a pessimist, you could argue that it is a glorified second rounder. What it actually is the 25th overall pick. I'm not sure what you want to do with that as a Bruins fan. I think I might prefer to flip that pick for something else. And as for Mark Kastelic, big, mean. Sounds like a Boston Bruin to me. Sounds like a Boston Bruin to me. I think they'll be keeping him. I think he'll be a jerk for them for a while in what is a nasty and competitive division. Why did this deal happen now? Here's the problem. It is June 24th. This is the day of Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. This was always a possibility. We talked about it on the podcast for a long time, that this was a possibility. The buyout window, if I'm not mistaken, opens tomorrow. So teams are going to be able to buy out players tomorrow, and I think there is going to be an unbelievable amount of activity tomorrow, the next day, and the next. Then on the 28th, it's the draft. That's going to be ridiculous too. If you want to do business at the draft, you need to have your ducks in a row now. You're going to have to make little moves, big moves, whatever moves you need to make in order to make your draft plans work now, immediately, as soon as the Stanley Cup Final ends. And what the Boston Bruins and the Ottawa Senators did was they said, nuts to that. We're not doing any of that. We don't care. Screw your game. We're not in it. Let's make the trade now. So they made the trade official online something like 20 minutes before the pregame began for this broadcast. What do the Ottawa Senators get? Immediately, they get a Vezina winning goalie. They improve in net. Joonas Korpisalo shows flashes of brilliance. I think he's far better suited to be a backup goalie, and I think he'll be a decent one for the Boston Bruins, especially with Swayman there carrying the load. Here's Ullmark's stats. In his career, he is a 919 save percentage. And keep in mind, he played with the Buffalo Sabres for a decent chunk of his career. This past season, 22 wins, 2 shutouts, a 915 save percentage, which doesn't sound that incredible if you go back a few years, but stats, save percentage have been dropping for years and years and years. If you have a goalie who's around a 905, you have someone who's in and around league average. So a 915 is really, really solid, and a career 919 is really, really solid. So if Anton Forsberg returns to form for the Ottawa Senators and they have Linus Ullmark, that's a really, really solid tandem for them. And as for the Boston Bruins, I don't necessarily think you got weaker. That's what I need Bruins fans to understand. Is your goaltending tandem as bad as it could be? No. Is it as good as it was? Definitely not. But Korpisalo, I think, in a reduced role, is going to be good for them. He's going to be better than you think. You get Kastelic, who already sounds like a Bruin, and now you have this bullet, this 25th overall pick that you can do something with, and it's the Boston Bruins. They typically do good things with their assets, unless, of course, they have 3 consecutive first-round picks. Then they're going to screw it up. Justin Fisher sent a poll live during this. 1,300 of you voted on it. Who do you think? What do you think of the Linus Ullmark trade? 49% of you said Ottawa wins the trade. Holy Toledo. Boston wins the trade, only 14%. Both teams win 15%, and losers all around 22%. So that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends. Linus Ullmark is an Ottawa Senator. There you go, Drew. Shot one live for you.